Good evening, fans, and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk with Rags here in Season 5, Episode 4. And tonight, here we are honored here to have former college football player and Brentwood Academy alum Bryce Mathews with us tonight. Bryce, how you doing this evening?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sure, no problem. Well, hey, let's with high school football being around the corner and you being a Brentwood Academy alum, let's start off here with what we were talking about before we started recording. I've heard of Midnight Madness to get the excitement around college basketball, but looks like Brentwood Academy here to get some excitement here with the players and with the fans. You know, there was Midnight Madness there for Brentwood Academy football.
Yep. Yeah. This morning, strike of midnight, they blew the whistle. Put the ball down and started playing. It was something new, and it was I was privileged enough to go get to watch it, get to be there early this morning, and it was a ton of fun though. It was a good turnout, and it was fun to see the guys getting after it. Something unique, something
Right.
that we never did when we were there, but really cool to see, and hopefully it's a start of a great season of Eagle football.
Yes. Yeah, and so you were a part of that program. So how living in the area and being part of that football program. How was it when you were going through?
It was a blast. It was such a blessing. BA has an incredible, history of football. Even before, we were there, they had, I want to say, 10 championships before I even got to high school. And the school was only, 40 years old at the time. So it's a pretty good win percentage, right?
Right.
So to come in and be a part of that, when we got to high school, we had been in sort of a lull. And so to be able to kind of bring it back to form our senior year and bring home the gold, it was super cool. And to have I had the unique position too of having my dad be my offensive line coach, and so
Oh,
getting to do that with him too was
right.
really a blast and truly was a blessing.
Yes. Yeah, and also we'll make note that a family member of mine there was your teammate here and longtime friend there, Michael DePasquale.
Yeah, we love Michael D. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
over the D line, so we got after it every week in practice. So
Right.
sometimes.
Yeah. Now, being there at Brentwood Academy, was it big enough, or were you able to play other sports, or was it pretty much just focus on one?
Yeah, so the way the school was founded, it's sort of, I wouldn't say expected, but it's encouraged to compete in as many sports as possible because the
Oh,
school itself is not huge, right? We have
right.
about, at least at the time, I'm assuming it's around the same, around 120 or so per graduating class. And so we're competing with some of the schools that are a lot bigger. And so to stay competitive, you got to have guys who are playing multiple sports. So, like for me, I played football and I played basketball and I,
Mhm.
did track and field, really the field part. Not couldn't find me on the track, too big for that. But yeah, so there's a lot of people who go and contribute and do a whole bunch of sports, and so it's kind of become part of the culture there. And one of the things that makes it so great.
Yes. Yeah, and then as you were going through through high school, I mean, what gave you the drive to possibly play at the next level?
Well, it was something that, funny enough, I had always sort of, you know, growing up, I thought maybe I'll play football, beyond high school. I don't really know.
Right.
Growing up with my dad as a NFL player, I was always, almost not necessarily had the expectation for myself, but knew that it was a possibility, right? Like
Right.
I had at least had the genes going for me, if nothing else.
Right. Yeah.
And so it really wasn't until as a sophomore in high school, we had the opportunity come up where I was able to start playing, more significantly than we originally thought. So as a sophomore, I was starting week one.
Oh,
And,
okay.
and so I went through that year and, did I play great by my standard? No, but, these schools were able to come in and look at these other guys who were getting recruited that were older than me, guys like Derek Barnett, who went to Tennessee, guys like C.J. Sanders, who ended up leaving, but he ended up going to Notre Dame for a bit. So they came in and look at these other guys who are older, and they see me and then a few other guys who are, hey, these are pretty big bodies. They look like they can, they put some weight on them. They look like they might actually be able to be players one day. And so after that sophomore year, people started sort of, reaching out to us, and we started to hear from these schools. Ole Miss and Tennessee were some of the first that came and said, like, hey, we'd love to, offer you, like to stay in touch. And that at that point, it sort of became real. I did not expect it to come, especially. And so at that point, it was like, okay, this is a real possibility. And it kind of became the path that I wanted to go down, and knew that it was a great way for me to, get to continue playing and get to, get my education paid for. So it was just kind of the perfect opportunity for me.
Yeah, and nothing like, I mean, you bring up schools right there, Tennessee and Ole Miss. I mean the SEC. I mean, they, in just about every sport, there's a handful of schools up there in the top 10, but definitely for football, I mean, the SEC there is cream of the crop.
Yeah, especially, at that time, I think there was, I want to say it was still, maybe it was right around when Clemson started winning, or I guess Ohio State had won before. There was that long streak of it was all SEC for in a row. So yeah, that was a, truly, kind of insane to think about how, getting the chance to have offers to be a part of this conference. And it was great too, being someone who's in Tennessee, that's, in my neck of the woods. And so, because I'm kind of a homebody too. So being in Nashville, it was nice to have these schools that were not, within a decent driving radius. So it was easy enough for me to be able to look at these schools and say, okay, I'm away from home, but I'm not too far from home, right?
Right.
To come back, when I needed to come back.
And then what was, I mean, you said, Michael played D-line, you played O-line. I mean, so what was it that made you want to stick to O-line versus playing on the other side of the ball?
Well, I was kind of a weird kid where even when I was little, I was always, because of my dad, I think I wanted to be on the offensive line.
Block.
And so there were a lot of kids, growing up, or no matter how big or how small, they want to be the quarterback, be a receiver, score touchdowns. And I didn't really care for all that. I thought, the offensive line's where the cool guys are, right?
Right.
Workhorses go. And so I found myself quickly wanted to go there, and it helped that I was taller than most kids, so it was a natural fit. And then through high school, there was a brief stint where I think senior year, where they tried to have some of us who were kind of more one-way players play both sides of the ball, and that lasted about 2 weeks in fall camp before the defensive line coach said, "Hey, I'll make you a trade." And it might have been Michael D. Give me Michael D. and you can have your son back for full time. And so my dad took the deal, and I was not too upset. The line, it was it was fun, a little change up, but it was, not, I was out of position. We'll put it that way.
But, the thing about offensive line is, I mean, people, you get a 100-yard rusher, you get a 300-yard passer, you get a 100-yard receiver in a game. But, the quarterback doesn't have time to pass unless the offensive line does their job. And the running back doesn't have those holes unless the offensive line does the job. So it's like, those positions, get the headlines, get the story. But then if knowing the game, it all comes down to, the offensive line doing their job.
Yeah, it's a thankless profession, right? That's what we always say. That the only time you're hearing your name called out as an offensive lineman is when you're holding. And so the best offensive linemen are the ones you never hear about.
Right. Yeah. So then so after high school, and nothing like closing out a high school career there with a state championship, but the opportunity of not only going to play college football, but with the jersey there behind your shoulder, and the first one, we'll get to the second one in a second, but the first one there, when you went to Ole Miss, and how was that? Was it going in the summer and getting adapted before camp started?
Yep. So it's literally BA. They've changed it a little bit now, but back when I was graduating, they used to have graduation ceremony was on Memorial Day, and that year it was a late Memorial Day, and so literally the day of graduation, I walked in the morning, went home, had celebrated with friends and family for probably an hour, and then hit the road and drove to Oxford. So it was
Oh,
an
wow.
immediate, as soon as we were done. Now, thankfully, I had a couple of buddies who graduated with me from BA who were also going to play football at Ole Miss. So we were all so we had some a couple people who were doing the same thing, which made it a little bit easier. But and then a couple other guys who were going to other schools who were in similar situations where we were all had to report as soon as we were graduated. But yeah, we got there in the summer. I'm showing up there with I always like to say I showed up at the same time as AJ Brown and DK Metcalf, and
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the three of us all really went on different paths from that point forward. But it's fun to say I was part of that recruiting class, and to come in and they put you to work as soon as you get there, man. It's you get your cleared in your physical, and it's straight to morning workouts, afternoon lifts, summer classes. For freshmen, there's tutoring, and there's extra help that you have to go in and get, and so it's a demanding schedule, and that you got to grow up really fast and learn how to manage your time, and also learn how to manage your free time, because you do get that freedom too. That once coming from somewhere like BA, it made it really. I feel like made the transition easier for me than some people to come in and be able to, know, okay, here's how I manage this workload for school, and I know how these workouts are going to be tough, but BA's prepped me for that too. They try to push you in the weight room just as hard as these college coaches do, and so to come in, it's a tough transition for anybody, but being able to come in with that experience before, I think really helped me and the other guys who were from similar situations.
Yeah, and then freshman year they're in 16. You redshirt. I mean, so was that something that you just, as you went into camp and getting ready here for the fall semester? I mean, they just kind of decide on who's going to redshirt, so then you don't lose that eligibility, and then you can focus on studies and then get what you need to work on for that next year. Or how does that work there on the football side?
Yeah, so there wasn't a guarantee, but I sort of knew going into it I was probably going to get redshirted. There were the way the depth chart was at that time. We were returning most of the starters. Like I can't remember exactly, but I know that Laramie Tunsil had just left, and so that was a big gap to fill. But they had some veteran guys who were already there, and they also, in my class, we had Greg Little, who was a 5-star recruit, and it was kind of the unspoken thing, like, okay, he's probably the one that's not going to redshirt. He's the next one up for that spot, and so the rest of us, because I think we had 5 or 6 offensive linemen in my class. Most of us knew we were probably going to redshirt to begin with. And then going through camp, we go through camp, and then by the end of camp, we're kind of told, okay, the plan is to redshirt you. Again, it depends on injuries. If things change, we'll let you know. But that's kind of how we see things playing out right now. And at that point too, the rule was a little bit different, where if you played in any game at all, your red shirt was burned. I think now there's a little bit of leniency where you get games or something. So that was a thing until maybe the next year or 2 after. At that point, when you're redshirted, we're not even dressing you out, because we don't want to have someone go down and throw you in there for a play by accident and get your red shirt burned on a fluke.
Right.
But yeah, so they came in. It was kind of understood that was the plan, and they told us that before the season started. So we were able to go in, and at that point, you get to do some extra workouts on like Fridays on game weeks that the team all the guys who are traveling are off. Right. But that morning you come in and you get Freaky Fridays, what they called it, and you get after it in the room and feel terrible the next day, but it all builds that muscle, gets you ready to go for the next year.
Yeah, and so with Redshirt and what pretty much just attend the home games and then just didn't travel.
Right, right. Yeah, we would go to all the home games, be on the sideline, and kind of standing there in a jersey, and
Right,
then yeah, you wouldn't travel to any of the away games. So as a homebody, those away games were a great time for me. If I wanted to drive home to Nashville, it was only a 4 hour drive. I could go home and see
right,
buddies who were in town, or see my family, whoever, watch games at home, or
yeah,
stay in town and hang out with the other guys who are redshirted and any other friends. So it was we I appreciated the red shirt year just to be able to, because I knew I needed to put on some muscle and grow and kind of get up to speed on where I needed to be playing at.
right. And then going into your sophomore year, I mean, because with college football, I mean, after after the regular season, I mean, you know, when you come back here after the Christmas New Year's break, I mean, it's gearing up for spring practice.
Yeah, it comes at you fast. You think you have a break, and so we did have a little bit longer break just because we didn't go to a bowl game that year, and
Mm,
so we were done after Thanksgiving weekend, and so we did get the whole after exams. We had the whole month of December off from football, and then we come back in mid to late January, and then it's yeah, you're exactly right. You go back to workouts, and then usually I want to say February that spring ball starts, and you're right back in it.
yeah, yeah, and it's and so how was that going into that sophomore fall fall season? Where you got the opportunity to play.
Yeah, so that was it's a little bit different mindset when okay, I'm going to be on the roster now.
Right.
We still had going back to that year, we still had a lot of guys returning on the offensive line from the year before. So I think our starters were pretty much identical from the prior year. But
Mhm.
then I was then able to kind of get to the point where okay, we're got a little bit of a lead. We can throw in some of these younger guys, and then being able to travel to games, going to play in places that we hadn't gone before, like going to Cal Berkeley and things like that, which was really fun. To go see these different stadiums.
Right.
It feels like a long time coming because by the time it gets there, you realize, wow, it's been 2 years since I've played meaningful
Right.
football since that state championship in December 2015. It's been a long time now in the fall of 2017, and so to get in a little bit here and there, get some reps against you're playing against SEC teams. It's a little surreal, but it's a lot of fun, and it feels like a payoff of all that hard work that you put in over that time because like we talked about, people don't always see it unless you're around it. The work goes on all year. It's not just going on for fall or off-season programs that are going all the time. So you're putting your body through the ringer, regardless of if it's in season or not. So to be able to then go out and play and kind of have all that come to fruition is extremely rewarding.
Yeah, and the other thing is I mean, with the coverage of the SEC, SEC network, and then the regular broadcast channels that have a contract with SEC, and then of course ESPN. I mean, it's just no matter what. Wherever or whoever you were playing. I mean, going to an SEC school, it's definitely being televised and being talked about.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's part of the appeal, right? Is
Right.
the recruiting pitch to say like you're getting national coverage no matter who you're playing at that point, and so that's yeah, it is. It's a juggernaut, and it's only continuing to grow, right? All the
Right.
conference realignments seems like everyone's trying to move into SEC or Big Ten or trying to get more and more coverage, right?
Right. And the other thing is like you were saying with being from the Nashville area, I mean, with Vanderbilt, being in the SEC, and then your time at Ole Miss, you definitely were playing Vanderbilt, but then there was a couple of times where, Ole Miss was going to Vandy.
Yeah, so that was part of one of the cool things too is the way it's all changed now with all the new conference
Right.
members. But at that time, where it was, they had the East and the West, and there was
Yeah.
one cross division opponent. Ole Miss's cross division was Vandy. So, like you said,
Oh,
every year playing at Vandy or home against Vandy. And so going in when I'm trying to choose a school, I'm thinking, okay, well, one of the perks is Ole Miss plays in Nashville every other year, and
right.
then on top of that, they're in the division with Texas A&M, which is where both my parents went, where my dad played, and so I
Oh,
have a family in Texas. I'm like, that's cool to go to A&M too.
right.
So it was a, again, that's not why you choose a school, but it's a nice little bonus to be. Oh, that's kind of nice to come home and play in your hometown and everything.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a plus for sure.
Yeah, and the second jersey that's there on the wall. I mean, one of the nice things about the pandemic is with being a student athlete of of any sport, got an extra year, or if someone was injured, maybe an extra 2 years. So how did the opportunity to come up and transfer to Liberty, and then with that free year, it helped out where people play at a school, get their undergrad, and then go somewhere else and work on their masters.
Yep. Yeah. So I can talk a lot about this. There's a whole lot to unpack there.
Right.
I went into college, I guess, I don't know if it's, again, part of that BA mentality or what. I wanted to go ahead and knock out as much school as I could while I was, getting it paid for. And
Right.
so I came in and intending to graduate in 3 years. But since we're there all year round, taking summer class and everything, it became a really approachable reality. It's where I was able to graduate, with my undergrad in the spring of 2019, going into my, I guess that'd be redshirt junior year, my fourth season.
Mhm.
Um, and so I go into that season, and in the summer, right before we start camp, I'm squatting and I feel something go on with my back. And
Mhm.
I've tweaked my back before. It's fairly normal to get dinged up a little bit, and you keep playing through it. But I'm realizing, okay, this thing's not getting better. I'm starting to feel things, in my leg. It's starting to get a little tingly. Something's not right here. Start getting treatment, and then trying to treat things as best as I can, but it's not nothing's really helping. We get
Mhm.
to this, and at this point, I'm competing for significant playing time, right?
Right.
And toying with the starting lineup, and then I'm just not able to compete at my full potential at that point,
Right.
and end up after going through part of fall camp with the starting group, having to get moved back to sort of a backup role. And one of the guys who fills in for that is a guy named Nick Broker, who is still playing NFL football to this day. He was a freshman at the time. All
Okay.
that to say, this year I ended up taking a year that I thought was going to be, the chance. Okay, now I'm going to get to really, play significant playing time. This is my time.
Right.
Uh, God comes in and says he has other plans, right? And
Right.
so Nick gets to play, and I love Nick, and he does a great job. I think I want to say he was SEC All Freshman that year, and
Mm.
so it kind of became. And then mid-season, I re-aggravate my back and realize I'm going to have to get surgery. And so I had a bulging disc, herniated disc that was hitting the nerve running down my leg, and it became really bad to the point where I needed to have surgery. So all of that kind of combined had me sitting there going, okay, maybe now is the time for a change. And at the
Mm.
same time, while that's going on, I want to say it was Coach Freeze's first year at
Right.
Liberty. And so I'm kind of keeping up with it just because that's my old coach and seeing how,
Right.
and significant amount of my old coaching staff is now at Liberty.
Right.
And so I'm seeing, oh, they're doing a pretty good job. First year in FBS, they're winning a bunch of games, going to bowl games, and then uh, it kind of became the conversation then kind of became, okay, well, I'm thinking it might be time for me to make a change. It feels like they have Nick, and I don't think they're going to put me back in over Nick. I think he was doing a good job. Let's see what the transfer portal is all about. And at that point too, it was not the transfer portal that we have now, where it's
Right.
transfer. It was because I had graduated though, and like made that effort on the front end. I was able to come in and get a free transfer, without having to sit out or anything. Because at the time it
Oh.
was a graduate, you had to sit out a year, and so that was maybe an appealing transfer. But when I went into the portal, the first thing I wanted to do was if I had any to say about, I wanted to talk to Liberty, just because with
Right.
Coach Freeze and the other coaches, knowing that they knew me, they knew what they were getting, and so it as soon as it became legal for me to talk to them, I was reaching out,
Right.
and I think they were interested too. Ended up we had, and luckily they thankfully they were interested as well, and so they needed, we're happy to take on a veteran offensive lineman, and so
Right.
I would come in and had to jump through some hurdles with the NCAA saying, hey, was there contact before you're in the portal? I'm like, no, we did everything legally.
Right.
There's no foul play involved or anything, right? But then all thank the Lord, works out. I'm able to get cleared to go to Liberty, and at that point, I said, let's shut it down. I'm going to Liberty. I've heard great things about the school. Let's go check it out. And so I arrived there. I had back surgery in November 2019. I arrived on the mountain in January 2020.
Oh,
fresh off this surgery.
right.
And thankfully, one of the head strength coach at Liberty was one of our assistant coaches at Ole Miss, Dom
Okay.
Ladzinski, who's now at Auburn with him. And he's the man. And so I knew part of the appeal too was he was the guy at Ole Miss who worked with the guys who were hurt. And so I knew he could get me, rehab pretty good. And he did. He worked my tail off, but he got me ready to play my spring ball. And so, by the time spring ball came around, I was full participant. But then what you're talking about earlier, we had about 5 practices, and then we have our spring break. And little did we know that was going to be an extended break, and that was the end of spring practice. I was on, a trip with my family for spring break, and then that's when everything, hit the fan, and COVID comes down, and everyone's kind of told, hey, just stay home for a while. We're going to start doing virtual meetings and all these different things. And it's just sort of a weird, surreal thing, like what is going on? And so I guess to backtrack a little bit with the academics, like I said, I graduated and I had started my MBA at Ole Miss that fall before I transferred. And so I was able to come in too and then transfer my credits over and start pick up my MBA with Liberty Online through program. Right. So it really made it a situation where it felt like I was playing pro ball, where I never stepped foot in a Liberty classroom, even though I was living in Lynchburg. I would show up to the facility, go to practice, work out, eat my meals, and then go home to my apartment and do my classes online, do it all online with my classmates. I was classmates with a grandpa in Oregon, people all over the world. And so the plan at that point was, okay, well, I'm going to continue getting my MBA, finish my master's with this 5th year, because at that point I was only going there for 1 year, right? But then because of COVID, like you said, it adds that extra year of eligibility. I go back and say, okay, well, I get this free year of football. They'll keep paying for my school if I want to do it. Do I really want to look for a job right now, or do I want to just keep playing and keep going to school? Okay, well, let's play 1 more year, see what happens. After having Malik Willis and having a great year in 2020, going I want to say 10-1, and so let's run it back. Let's see we can do another year. And so at that point, I was able to add on like some healthcare management, a healthcare management cognate to my MBA degree. So I was able to kind of get some healthcare classes, and finish that up, and then had to take in that fall. A lot of us were in the same predicament of we sort of finished our master's, but needed to take classes to keep playing this.
Be enrolled.
So we took it's like a sports management graduate certificate where it's these graduate level classes, but only get to take 3 of them. So it was enough to keep us eligible because I didn't really feel like starting another master's with 1 semester left getting paid for it. So, but yeah, I know it was a long-winded answer, but that was kind of the journey to get there and how we ended up taking that extra year and becoming an old man playing college football at 24 years old, playing with guys who were 18.
Right.
And funny story, one other tidbit was one of the teammates I had at Liberty was a guy named Aaron Lovins, who went to Brentwood Academy also.
Oh.
He was in my sister's grade, and so he was younger, and we kind of got there at the same time. And people were like, "Oh, y'all went to BA together? Y'all were teammates?" No, he was in school when I was there last time. So we never actually played together till Liberty, but that really puts it in perspective, makes you feel like an old man out there.
Well, and the thing is the opportunities that you were given there at football, and having a coach that recruited you and knew you, and yes, with his assistance, move along there to Liberty. But that was also being part of Flames football there when they were just. I mean, they did a good job there at FCS, and they had a good program, but just the opportunity here with exposure and getting into bowls and a couple years ago they won their conference championship, so they got to play in a big New Year's Day bowl. But being part of Liberty, you were part of the program as they were shifting from to FBS level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a it was a really cool experience to come in and see that and say like I didn't really know what to expect coming in, because of that. Like, okay, a lot of these guys have been here for a long time. They were recruited as FCS players. How's the talent level going to be? And you get there and you realize there's not that much difference in talent. The biggest difference, you may have guys who are, not quite as an inch or two shorter than who you had at Ole Miss, or you have a defensive lineman who is really good. Like maybe in the SEC, your best SEC guy is really good at pass rush and stopping the run, and maybe you have some guys who are better at one or the other, but they're still just as good at that one thing as anyone
Right.
you've gone against. And so you really realize there's not as much of there's really no significant drop off in talent. Especially, and then you combine that with the coaching. You've already you're getting coached at a high level with people who have been at that, level before, and so it made it kind of the perfect storm for Freeze and his staff to come in and really take the program to new heights and into uncharted territory at the time. And having guys, like I said earlier, Malik, who were able to step up and, be the stud that he was and really kind of help us win games in a lot of different ways. It made a really fun team to play for. And it really felt like we had, a ton of momentum especially that 2020 year. It was just, especially in the midst of, COVID and everything, it was awesome to be able to go in each week and, compete and then kind of, become a ranked team. And, we knew we had that game against Coastal at the end of the year that we had to look forward to. And then having it taken away because our team got COVID, missed out on college game day, but then still being able to play them and go to that bowl game, which was a great game, and winning the way that we did on the blocked field goal was just, super cool. Such a blessing to be a part of it. And that was also like my first bowl game because we never went to one while we were Ole Miss. And so to get to experience that for the first time and that be my first bowl game in year 5, it was incredible. Truly was.
Yeah, and so the opportunity of playing college football and the opportunity to go to a different program to work on your masters, there around the game of football, paid for your undergrad, paid for your masters. Now, where was the time where you realized, hey, I've enjoyed playing college football, but to go at the next level, there's these steps. So maybe with uh, masters, hey, it's been a fun ride, but now I guess it's time to get a job, or when was the moment where you realized, hey, when I leave Liberty, it's going to be, I mean, it's been great here to play college football, but it's time to use my degree.
Yeah, well, funny enough, so we come out of 2020 and off the big bowl win, and at that point, we're red hot, and it's real easy to come back to say I want to come back and be a part of this comeback. Fast forward to that next spring ball, I'm finally healthy again. I'm ready. Year 6, I'm an old man, but ready to go out there and for the last ride. And then about I don't know 2 or 3 practices in, I start getting this stinger in my neck where about once a practice, I just feel this heat go down my arm, and I'm realizing, oh man, this is it felt somewhat similar to how my leg was messed up from the first injury. I'm like, I need to get this checked out. It's not going to be good. So I go get it checked out. We get it worked on, get an MRI, all get shots done, all this stuff. And essentially, they say they give me these steroid shots and say, you have this a disc, sort of bulging in your neck. right now, like nothing's bad, like you're fine. We're gonna give you the shot, and we're gonna pull you out of spring ball just to keep you non-contact until the season. And
Right.
it became okay when the season starts and you're hitting again. If it's fixed, great, then you're good to go. If it keeps messing up, you might need to be careful. And at that point, I'm thinking to myself, I don't I don't feel like I need to put myself at risk for the rest of my life to play one more year of
Right.
football. If it starts getting that bad, I'm very content to call it a career, having already played 5 years,
Right.
and then bless. I feel truly blessed to say like the Lord blessed me by letting me finish that last season, play every single game, and I felt a little bit of sensation, but nothing like I felt in the spring. So nothing
Right.
that made me concerned like I had to stop playing. But all that to say, coming out of spring ball and saying, okay, I'm already sort of on, not injured reserve, but like injury watch, I guess.
All
Um,
right.
it's saying my body's probably about ready to be done with this. I'm weighing, 300 and something pounds at that point, and on a surgically repaired back, I'm sitting there going, okay, I can go and do the pro day if I want to and see if a team will take a chance on me, but part of me is just ready to give my body a break and move on and use those degrees like you said that I've been working so hard for in the classroom. And so it became a even though we had some pro teams come in and take looks at us and sort of, it's kind of cool to be able to talk to these teams.
Mm-hmm.
It's the point where it's like, okay, I think the smarter decision is to move on from football, enjoy it as a spectator, still obviously, it's been such a big part of my life. I'm not just going to step away completely, but
Right.
to the physical part of it was time to move on, and I'm very happy with that decision. People ask if you miss playing, and I don't miss the practices.
Right.
I don't miss the workouts. You miss game days a little bit; those are a little bit more fun, and then you
Right.
miss the locker with the guys and everything. But yeah, it was time to move on, and it was after praying about it, it was the best decision for me, and I feel like that's where the Lord was leading me, and who am I to argue against that?
Right. Yeah, that's right. And hey, as we wrap up, I mean, I know with being in the Nashville area, and definitely probably followed the Titans, and your dad, had an NFL career, but with you playing college football, do you see now, like, when you watch NFL, like maybe look at Malik's team, look at DK's team, rather than just root for one team, just kind of follow your collegiate teammates on where they're playing there in the NFL.
For sure. I got lucky for a little while where AJ Brown
Yeah.
was a Titan for a little bit, and
Oh
so
wow.
it was fun to watch him. And then Malik got drafted by the
Right.
Titans, and I was pumped for that. And
Right.
I feel like Malik was the first guy that had me rooting against the Titans because I feel like the Titans didn't do him right the way that they. That's just my opinion. Some people
Right.
disagree. And so then when he went to when Malik went to Green Bay and came back and got to play, in Nashville, he almost had me rooting against the Titans. So I wanted to see him succeed, and it's the only time that's ever happened in my lifetime. But yes, it's fun having guys I played with, and also being fortunate enough to know have personal relationships with guys. Dawson Knox is one who he went to BA and then went to Ole Miss with him, and now he's killing it with the Bills. And
Mm.
Royce Newman is a guy. He was my classmate at Ole Miss, and he's bounced around a little bit. He was drafted by the Packers, spent last season with Tampa Bay, and now is at camp with Arizona. And so getting to keep up with him
Okay.
is I stay in touch with him a decent amount, and so it's fun to watch guys like that. But then yes, also knowing like, hey, here's some guys I played with. Watching DK now at the Steelers playing with Aaron Rodgers. It's it's fun to kind of keep up. It's a fun little trivia fact when I'm sitting at Buffalo Wild Wings or something saying, hey, I went to school with that guy.
Right.
He's making a little bit more than I am now, but we're equals, so to speak.
Right now, and then also since you do live in the area, close to Brentwood. I mean, do you see yourself maybe getting back into coaching of football?
I always thought at some point it's possible. Right now, it's not really in the cards, just with the way my job is set up right now. But my dad's the athletic director at BA, and
Okay.
my wife works at BA, and so I'm at many of the home football, if not all the home football games, and some of the away ones too. And so I'm around a lot, and so I'll never say never. And I have friends who work at BA too, and I've always thought in the back of my head, at some point I could see it happening. Right now, I don't know when that would be, but I'll just leave it at that. I'll never say never because it's
Right.
a great place to be. I love the school, and it's treated me right, and I'd love to be able to pass it on at some point if the right opportunity came up.
Yes, and then to close it out, I mean, I know that any encouraging words here to wrap up here with the current high school football players. Anything to say for them that's going to be listening to this episode?
Uh, for all the high school players, I would say enjoy this time together. I've been blessed to play, high level football beyond high school, and it's fun and it's great. I would argue that some of the best memories you have with football are with your high school team and those guys. It's a much more, you're with these guys all the time. You're all the same classes together, going through the summer workouts. You have some of that in college, but you get a little bit more, different things at play at that point. It's much more, especially now with NIL and everything. It's a much more pure sport at the high school level, I would say. So enjoy that time together, and then really soak in the moment. And it's a time to work your tail off. And for me, it was just sort of a storybook ending for us that we worked our tails off and were able to win a championship and go out with some gold, which was super cool. And so just enjoy that time together and put in the work, and hopefully Lord willing, opportunities arise beyond high school, but play like it's your last game every game, and just leave it all out there.
Yes. Well, hey, Bryce, appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. Sorry we went a little long, but I know that there
Good.
was a lot of things to talk about. And next time Elizabeth and I come there to the Music City, maybe we can catch a Titans game.
Maybe so. Maybe I won't hit you with a golf ball next time you're in town. Don't need to talk about that right now. But
That's right. So, but all right, Bryce. Thanks again for your time, and talk to you later.
appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Yep.